Welcome back to the Michael Batson Show. I am Michael Batson, and it's a pleasure to be with you on this Monday morning. Game 7 on the Eastern Conference semifinals. We'll talk about that. Celtics kind of blew the Sixers out, 112-88 in the Boston Garden. They now will move on and advance in the playoffs. And then we'll also talk about Ja Morant, suspended again for flashing a gun in public. This time was on Instagram Live, just in his car, right? We got to keep up with him, see what he's doing wrong. We'll get to that, too. First, we need to get to the big news of yesterday, which was the most hyped up matchup, probably the playoffs, because it was the first Game 7 in the something finals. It was the Sixers versus the Celtics, and the Celtics kind of whooped the Sixers' butts. This was not close. This was not close, especially late third quarter, or actually, let me say late, or the start of the second half, it was, I think, a 2 or a 4 point game. The end of the third quarter, it was a 13-point game. And at the end of the game, it was a 24-point game. Well, how did this happen? Well, Jason Tatum got hot. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But before we be positive and we give people our respect, we also have to talk about who did terrible. And who did terrible was the Sixers. They just can't do it in the playoffs, and they can't finish. This is now 3 straight years where they've lost in the Eastern Conference semifinals. 5 straight years, 5 out of 6 years that they now have lost in the Eastern Conference semifinals. They took a break in 2018. And with Doc Rivers, the question keeps coming, and it's now being answered that he cannot win the playoffs, and either can Joel Embiid and either can James Harden. They just can't. This is 5 of 6 years, 3 years in a row now, where they have been punched out in the Eastern Conference semifinals with more than enough ability, more than enough talent, and more than enough momentum. Where does it go wrong? Well, you could look at the star players first of all, because that's what we do in the NBA. One player can change the game, change the course. And you like to have help, you like to have death, but one player can change it. And you expect an MVP, Joel Embiid. Second time in his career, big guy, big star, superstar. One of the face of the NBA to step up in a Game 7. He had 15 points. He didn't shoot a 3, or he shot 4 threes, but he didn't make any. He only got to the free throw line 6 times and missed 2 of them. He just played absolutely terrible. And it wasn't like he was bricking all these shots. He only took 18 shots. Now, he made 5 of them and he wasn't shooting well, but then that made a guy like Tobias Harris step up and take 15 shots, which he normally doesn't do. He was supposed to be the leader, and he didn't play like it. And it's terrible to watch them blow it again, but you have to play it on Joel Embiid, because he didn't step up yet again. And he blew it again. This is a guy averaging, let's look here. This is a guy averaging 34 points per game. First in the NBA. 11 rebounds. 8th in the NBA. He's also averaging 5 assists, which is solid. Well, if you look, in 38 minutes, he had 15 points. That's an 18-point drop-off. He had only 8 rebounds and 1 assist. That's not good. When you're averaging 33 points and you're the star, you need to play better. And also the blame gets to go on not only Doc Rivers, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fired the next day because Monty Williams got fired a day ago. He had a great team. He had great success in the first round, but he couldn't make it past the first round. It's a similar scenario to Monty Williams. Would Doc Rivers get fired? I think so. But you could look at him and you could also look at James Harden. A guy who is streaky as any streaky guy could be in these playoffs. In the first game, he was sucky, and then he had 42, and then he was sucky, 45, sucky. He had 9 points, and it seems like you could just never trust the guy. Oh, he can play good. He can play great. But you could just never trust the guy fully. And once you start trusting him, like in Game 3, you say, okay, he's He's lighting it up. He has 9 points in Game 7. He only took 5 threes. He made one of them. 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He only got to the line for 1 pair of free throws. And it's just like we were trying to get back on the train. And we were trying to get back the momentum that James Harden, maybe he could be a really good player and maybe he could be valued. I said it. I was like, maybe this guy's not consistent, but when he's good, he's great. And maybe he had a rough patch with the Rockets, but maybe he found his home with the 76ers. And I was like, yes, this is it, right? Let's go. Let's see James Harden. And in Game 7, I think he's going to do really good. And he just let the critics, the media, the fans, and me down again with scoring 9 points. Scoring 4 points in the second half. None in the fourth quarter. In a Game 7. So I think a lot of people are let down by him too. So I think where you put the blame, you could put it 1, Doc Rivers, he's the coach, he's a mastermind. You could put it 2, Embiid, he's MVP, 15 points. And you could put it 3 on James Harden. Those 3 are the guys. Tobias Harris played good with 19. See, Tobias Harris is only averaging about 14 points. He exceeded the expectation. You have a guy like Tyrese Maxey that had 17 points. PJ Tucker had 3 threes in the first half. You had some bench guys do some good. You had 8 bench guys play. 8. So you can't make excuses for anyone else. You could say, what was the game plan? Was it wrong? You could point that to Doc Rivers. Jason Tatum had 51 points. Someone has to be in the wrong. You could also point it to Joel Embiid because he's the star. He's MVP. He's supposed to step up. And you have to feel let down about James Harden, a guy that you could have said, oh, maybe he's getting back on track. Maybe this is the year. Maybe he just feels better with the Sixers. He blew it in Game 7. And once again, the Sixers lost and crushed many fans in Philadelphia's hearts. Again. I think Doc Rivers will be fired in the next few days. I think he is. Let's talk about the upside of this game. Because we could talk about downside, and then we have to talk about upside. I like to give a compliment for every kind of down I give. Or critic. If I say something bad about Joel Embiid, I gotta say something good about Jason Tatum. Because there's a lot of negativity going on in this world. And I think I should at least be 50-50. So let's go. Embiid, Harden, Jason Tatum, yeah. Yup. 51 points. He set a Game 7 record for most points in the Game 7. Steph Curry had it and broke it a few weeks ago. He took the title from Curry just weeks after getting it and saying, no, it's me. And Jason Tatum, I will say this. He's a streaky player. Everybody knows that. But when he's good, he's great. And you have to build a team around him. You have to give him stars like Jaylen Brown because he won't be 100% every day. Right? He won't be. He'll have 51 points, but then, he'll struggle. He'll have a good fourth quarter, right, in Game 6, but he'll struggle with only 19. He'll score 36 in Game 4, but in Games 1 and 2, he won't top 27. Right? So he's a really, really streaky player. But when he's good, he's about as good as any player could be in the NBA. He can shoot the 3-ball, he can drive, he could pull up, he has good moves. He has the 5 tools. If there's 5 tools in baseball, you could pick the 5 tools in basketball. It could be scoring, driving, shooting, defense. He fits them all. He had 13 defensive rebounds, 6 threes. Oh, you want steals? He had 2 steals. And I think he's somewhat underrated as the fact that a guy that plays for the Celtics, went to Duke, has a shoe contract, is young and can hit the 3-ball and has a really good kid, active on social media, you'd think he'd be a bigger star. And some people don't like him because he's streaky. He's a very streaky shooter. He only had 19 points in the game, in Game 5, or Game 6, excuse me. But 17 to 19 came in the fourth quarter of that game. He's streaky. But when he's good, he's one of the best in the league. And you saw it here. He was active, right? And they put Joel Embiid on him. He couldn't do anything. He could not do anything. So, kudos to Jason Tatum. Kudos to Jason Tatum. So the Celtics will move on, and they will play the Heat. I think Wednesday. Wednesday they will play the Heat. All right, another day, another drama with Ja Morant. He is now suspended indefinitely from team activities after flashing a gun in an Instagram live video. It was on Sunday. It was going around social media, and the NBA and the Grizzlies picked it up, and they suspended him indefinitely. I don't know what team activities they're doing now. But people are saying, no, this isn't only for maybe a few practices. People could be saying, and people are saying, that he could be suspended for a lengthy amount of time. And you could definitely get on this case, and I think most people would too. And I think if you look in the American workplace, and especially if you're getting paid that much money, you gotta follow the rules of your employer and your boss. It doesn't matter if you're making $200,000 a year, if you're working at a gas station, or if you're playing professional basketball. You don't need to break the laws, and you don't need to murder someone or go to jail to be punished. This is a guy who had been in and out of trouble for really the whole 2023 season and now the off season. There was reports that he was flashing a gun to the Pacers bus early in the year. There was reports that in a pickup game at his house, he punched and flashed a gun to a 16-year-old's head. You saw that video late in the season where he was suspended for a few games because he was flashing a gun in public, right, on a Saturday night. And now he's suspended again. And I think they're kind of giving him a lot more time, I think most people are expecting, because I think he was let off easy the first time. And the first time was because when all these rumors came out of the Pacers bus and him punching a kid, the only thing they really had real evidence and clear evidence was that he basically flashed a gun in public in a club on a Saturday night. So they had to suspend him for 5, 6, 7, 8 games. They also said you need to go to counseling. So they shipped him to Florida for a few days. They basically needed to do it, and Ja Morant came back and played the rest of his season. Nothing was wrong and nothing would be wrong until he broke it again and went behind his employer's back and his boss back and basically just said, I don't care what you think. And I think scrolling through Twitter, a lot of people are making this political. A lot of people are saying, oh, Second Amendment. Oh, what happened to gun rights? I don't see him breaking the law. Well, I think that most people aren't understanding that if you're employed, you don't need to break the law to get fined, suspended, or fired from your job just for doing something wrong. Right? And although he didn't break the law, although he didn't go in and kill someone, and although he didn't, punch a guy on the streets, you still could get fined, suspended, or fired from your job. And most people, and I think some, at least just some, are mixing this up with rights about gun carry and rights about, did he do anything wrong? Not illegal, but when you go into a job, especially making that money and especially doing something wrong before, your employer is more tight, and your boss, and that means your coach in the front office, is looking at you with tighter eyes. They didn't look at Ja Morant with tighter eyes until he got suspended the first time. Until there were rumors that he was punching a 16-year-old kid. And then they saw the gun flashing video and they're like, we kind of got to do something. And now it's their second time suspending him. And they are being more strict than ever. And your employer, even though Ja Morant maybe didn't break the law, he went behind his employer's back. He went to counseling. He said basically, I don't care what you think. And he did the same mistake over again. Right? So Ja Morant, I think he's going to be set for a lengthy suspension. Some are saying the whole year. I don't think that. But I could definitely see the first 15, 16, maybe even 20 games of the season. Because now the NBA is getting involved with the full-scale investigation. Now, this is the second time that Ja Morant had been suspended. Now this is the fourth or fifth time that it had been rumored, and now they've had concrete evidence where Ja Morant have done something with a gun. Maybe not illegal, maybe not killing someone, but suspicious with a gun. A thing that doesn't make you look good and doesn't make your team look good. So I'm looking at a lengthy suspension. The NBA is investigating it. This is the second time the NBA has investigated something. No, make the third time they've investigated something of Ja Morant's action in the last 3 months. There's a lengthy suspension coming, people. And although you want to make it about politics, some people want to make it about gun laws, if you go behind your employer's back and you basically just tell them to F off, there's going to be consequences. And especially now, he's a repeat offender. This is his third time, second suspension, third time the NBA have investigating him or what he's done. And there's going to be rampant consequences. Because that 8 games, that was okay, Ja, let's tone it down. That counseling was we're going to do the counseling just to make you look good. Just to make the team look good. Make sure the NBA knows our standards are right here, are tight. But now, there's going to be lengthy suspensions. I'm thinking a month, 20, 25, maybe 30 games. This doesn't look good. Doesn't look good for Morant. I mean, he has to really get some work done on his actions or he's going to lose a chance because he's a star. But not everybody could handle that limelight and that spotlight and that money and that fame and the power you have with that role. That's why I give LeBron James a lot of credit. He's had that money and that spotlight since he was 18. Ja Morant have had it for a few years, and he's already starting to look like he can't handle it. Suspensions are coming, and I think lengthy ones for Ja Morant.
It was 5 chains on my neck. It was no smut on my rep last time that I checked. I was selling zones in the set. Make $250,000, no sweat last time that I checked. I'm the streets voice out west. Legendary self-made progress last time that I checked. First you get the money, then respect, then the power and the hoes come next last time that I checked. I've been self-made from the dribble. I was big